Greetings of Namaste. My name is Ram Hotep, broadcasting on behalf of the number 13 SignsAstrology.com. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. I want to get right into it on this particular episode. I want to talk about the God structure on this particular episode. That's right, I said the God structure. I've been getting a lot of emails and, from different Christians and different people, different religions actually. I mean, Muslims, I get a lot of emails from Hindus, and it's usually only those particular people that are in monotheistic religions that tend to be confused with some of the viewpoints and things that I have to say about God. And it's a reason for that. And that's why I'm doing this video. This is dedicated to those particular people that consider themselves monotheistic. And monotheism, basically what it is, for those people that may not know what that term means, it just means supposedly the belief in one God. Meaning that you believe in one God, and if you believe in more than one God, this is supposed to be called polytheism, and this is supposed to be a sin, because God is, according to the Bible and other scriptures, the monotheistic God is a jealous God. And he or she, well, they say he, does not want you to take any partners or any associates with this particular God. So I'm going to focus, I'm dedicating this video to those particular people that are in monotheism. I'm not here to step on your toes. This is strictly informational, educational. If you don't want to look at it as truth or facts, you could just say this is my opinions, my views, and how Ram Hotep sees things. So we don't have to get all deep into this is the truth and you better believe in this, goddammit. It's not like that. It's just my opinions and views. And I have to do this because it helps you to better understand astrology a lot better when you are totally clear on the concept or structure of God, this construct that we call God. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you different names that we call God in monotheism, or that you guys who are monotheistic, you guys call God up under different names. Some of you don't even realize that you use more than one name to talk about God, and in that's going to prove that you guys aren't really so monotheistic. Actually, you guys are what's called henotheistic, which means that you pick a God out of the many and serve this God as your all, as your one and only. You swear your allegiance to a particular God, and this is because there's different groups of extraterrestrial beings that came down to do different experiments, and all of them conveniently took on the title of God because they knew they can get a group of humans that didn't know as much to follow them if they took on this banner and this title of God. So what I want to do here is just get all the bull crap out your mind, all the bullshit out your mind, and just really try to clear it to a point to help you to understand what these words and terms really mean when we talk about God. Now, the first part of this God structure that you want to look at, and this is the beginning of all the God structure, actually starts with a group. It actually starts with a group. That's the first thing that needs to be pointed out. So the whole concept of, in most of the books, and I'm talking about monotheism here, so we're talking about Quran and Bible. Both Quran and Bible, because this is what the monotheistic groups all believe in the Bible. I don't care if you're Hebrew, Jew, or if you are a Christian or a Muslim. You believe in probably the Bible or the Quran. Now the Quran, I'll do a whole book on the metaphysics of the Quran, but the Quran was partly inspired by the Bible. And Islam in general was inspired by monotheism. It's just nothing but a branch of monotheism. That's all Islam is. It's a branch of monotheism. So I'm going to go into the Islamic God, but let me first help you to understand why God starts out as a group. And this is because in the beginning, whether you're talking about the Bible or Quran, it says, let us make man. In the Quran, it says we. So it says either us or we, and both of these terms are plural. And the reason for this is because when this particular God construct was put together and revealed, it was put together by a body, by a group of beings. And these beings were called, in that particular time, the Elohim. And when you research the Elohim, this is what you would call a Hebrew term that actually goes back into an ancient Sumerian script. But when you talk about Elohim, you're talking about a council of gods. And you're talking about a group of guys that sat together like a council of scientists and decided how they were going to create man. So that's the first thing you got to point out. So man, the whole construct of man and woman and humanity and Homo sapiens sapiens, we were created by a group of beings. So when you talk about God, the Most High who created us all humans, you're talking about a group. It's not one person. And I could go into specific people and names and entities that were involved in this group, but that's not what this video is for. I'm just here to break down terms and words. So that's the first word you need to understand is Elohim, because this is going to take you into the concept of the gods and the council and all of that stuff that I talk about. And in that, when the Elohim roll as a group, there's always a leader amongst that group. And that leader becomes what you would call, what the Elohim call in the books and the scriptures, they call this leader Yahweh. Yahweh or Yahweh. And if you study Yahweh, this is an interesting topic because you're going to find out that Yahweh is supposed to be a name, really it's YHWH, and it's really the name of God and it cannot be uttered. See, Yahweh could not be uttered, so they would just say YHWH, or they would call it the tetragrammation or the secret name of God. But essentially the name Yahweh, the reason why it couldn't be uttered and the reason why people were so secret and silent about it is because of the power that it has. Because the Yahweh, or the leader of that particular group of Elohim, was really the head magician, or the one that would speak the existence into creation. So this was the advocate, or the one that spoke for the group. So he would be called kind of like the president. So he would be a figurehead essentially, because you still have the group, but he would be the head, or she would be the head of that particular group. And when you talk about Yahweh, it goes back into those people that took part in the summer solstice ritual know that I was speaking about Hu-He. And Yahweh and Yahu-He are the same entity. See, the secret name of Yahweh, or Yah-He-Vah-He, is the same thing as Yahu-He, but Yahu-He is the original way of saying it, or the Egyptian way, or really the extraterrestrial way actually, and they watered it down and turned it into Yahweh, or YHWH, and they said the name couldn't be uttered. This is because they didn't want you to know the secret name, because the secret name taps you into the power of magic. Because those people that did the summer solstice ritual know that I talked about how Hu-He was a personification of the utterance of the spoken word. So when you call on Hu-He, this helps you to personify and to manifest the power of whatever you're speaking. And the words that you're speaking, it helps you to personify or come into this reality. So this is why Yahweh is very key, because this is the spokesman, and this is, he or she keeps the secrets of the spoken word, and they pass it on to the next Yahweh to come into power. So the Yahweh is really actually, or the Yahu-He is really on power in the Biru. And that's what they're not going to tell people or whatever. This particular God and this Elohim, this council, they exist on the Biru. This is where they live at or whatever. So your whole concept of God comes from, again, a group of extraterrestrials, and even the language that you're using to refer to God and to talk about God comes from these same extraterrestrials. I'm going to do a video talking about the hidden meanings and secrets of language. So I'll cover that later. So when you talk about Jehovah, that's the next name I'll cover. Jehovah goes into God of War. This is the God of War, but really Jehovah links into Yahweh. So when people say, well, really the name of God is Jehovah, you know that means God of War. And this is because the Jehovah goes back into the story of Murdoch, or Marduk. And Marduk was a warrior. He came from a warrior bloodline, an extraterrestrial tribe that were a group of warriors. So this is why Marduk, he became synonymous with, he was the head Yahweh at the time when these scriptures were written. So when you, and there's more than one Marduk, so that's a whole other story in and of itself, but the concept of Marduk takes you into understanding Yahweh even more, and why Yahweh becomes the Lord of War, because Marduk came here on a warrior's mission to subdue Tiamat. See, this is why Yahweh became the Lord of War, because Tiamat has this snake energy that I've talked about in other videos that we call the devil, and Marduk waged war against that. He had to tame that, or quote-unquote civilize that. So he became the God of War, because it took a warrior to establish God's kingdom here. See, and they try to make God out like God is this God of peace and love, and that's another aspect. That's not the God in the Bible. The God in the Bible is a warrior God, shedding blood, sacrificing, eating humans, all kind of stuff the gods do in the Bible. So I'll touch that at another time. So that's Jehovah. Now we'll go into another concept, and a lot of people like to refer to God as the Lord. The Lord. And I'll talk about the Lord. See, the Lord really goes into, that's a human position. The Lord was the particular human that was appointed as the representative of the gods, to humans. So the Lord will go to the Yahweh, or go to the council, and then the council, will talk to the Yahweh, however it would work. But the Lord was the human, or the Homo sapien representative of the gods to the world. So when you talk about lords, there were many lords. So you say, this is why the term Lord is actually a term we deal with in government. We deal with in like the monarchy type of government. We deal with kingship and queenship. You have lords and bishops and all that type of stuff. These are governmental terms as well. So, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that towards the close of this video about God and government. So I'll go back to that. So Lord is a human Homo sapien that represents the will of the gods to humans. So Lord would be like a rabbi, or rabbi actually means Lord. So when you hear the concept of a rabbi or a teacher or something like that, that's the Lord, or the human representative. Then you have another concept you have is Adonai. And a lot of people like to refer to, they say, well, I'll use the term Adonai. That means God. Doesn't mean God. Adonai, again, just means Lord. It's just a more sophisticated term to talk about a Lord or a ruler, like a king. See, the Adonai was the one that established God's will on earth, and was the ruler and the king that had to keep everything in order. This is why you use a ruler to measure things and keep things structured. So this is what the Lord does, or the Adonai does. Then you have a concept that a lot of people aren't familiar with, but a lot of my fellow Rastas and some people that are deep into this whole God construct that I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. Then you have the concept of what will be called the Most High. Because a lot of people like to say the Most High. And in the Bible, it's Ilion El, or the Most High, the highest of all the different gods. Now, the Yahweh is not the same thing as the Most High. Just because you have an appointed Yahweh or a spokesperson for the gods does not make that Yahweh the head one, or the highest one, meaning that the Most High is the one that has the most wisdom, the most understanding, the most overstanding, and is able to make the best decisions in and of themselves out of a group. So when you talk about the Most High, this is when you go into Anu. Anu was the Most High. It's another term for Most High outside of Ilion. So the Most High, really, it's different Most Highs depending on the group that you're talking about. Like there's a Most High of the Pleiadians, there's a Most High of the Syrians. There's different Most Highs, but at the end of the day, it's based on a group. It's based on a group, and it's based on the one that has the most knowledge out of that group. Not necessarily the spokesman, though. Remember that. Not necessarily a spokesman. So, for instance, you have a group of presidents, and right now Barack Obama is the president and the spokesman in charge, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Bill Clinton used to be president, and it doesn't take away from the fact that George Bush was president. So therefore, George Bush, this is just, I'm saying for the sake of just this conversation, not for real. But George Bush would be like a Yahweh, or not a Yahweh, I'm sorry, like the Most High. Like the father of George Bush could be like the Most High. But then you could have like Barack Obama, he's like the Yahweh, or the spokesperson at that particular time, representing this group of presidents though. So the concept of the Most High goes into the group that you're talking about. And the one with the most wisdom, understanding, the understanding will be the Most High. And then you have a couple other concepts that aren't really talked about in religion. This goes more to metaphysics. This is pretty much breaks down your construct of God and religion. So I kind of close that part out right now. So when you talk about God, just think about that as like a banner term. That's like a banner term that doesn't really tell you anything. So you say, I'm going to pray to God. That's why when a lot of people pray to God, they don't really get anything back. You say, well, I'll pray to Jesus. I'm going to do a video called The Metaphysical Jesus to better help you to understand that. That's fine if you want to pray to Jah Zeus. I'll tell you that much right now, because I will mention Jesus' name, because this is often the God that many people in monotheism pray to. And it's okay, you want to pray to Jah Zeus, the Lord Zeus. That's what you're praying to, and you need to research what Zeus means, and then maybe you'll think. So I'm not going to make you mad here. But if you research it, do some good research, and maybe leave it in the comments or something, and you know what I'm saying, find out what Zeus really means. And put it in the comments or something. I don't even want to be the one to say it. You know what I'm saying? Because then you'll kind of see like this word game that they're playing. That's why I tell people, if you really wanted to worship the guy that you think is Jesus, that wasn't his name anyway. Historically, his name was Yeshua, so that's why that whole Jesus concept just takes you into another God. So that's just another term that goes into Zeus. And I'll just leave that there. So then you have a couple other terms that I want to talk about that are outside the God construct. Well, this will help you to understand the God construct a lot better. You have, and this is the real God. Like if you ask Ramhotep, do you believe in God? And I did a video and I said outside of the higher self, there is no God. And I stand to that and I stick by that. And I want to just add to that and say that if there was a God outside of the higher self, there was a principle or something that, there is definitely a God outside of the higher self. Let me kind of break that down. There's many deities out there. There's not really one God. So when I say that there is no, like when you hear Ramhotep say, well, there ain't no God. No, Ramhotep is not an atheist. I'm not ignorant. I did a whole video on atheism. When you hear me say that, I'm saying that in a sense of saying that there is no one person, being, whatever you want to call it, light that created everything. It just isn't. It happened. That's why I said, let us make man. There's always a council when it comes to creation, especially when we talk about physical creation. There's always a group. But when you want to talk about the inner God, or what would be kind of like the God, like when we talk about the concept of God is love. When you talk about the concept of God is love, this goes into the concept of the all. And the all is a concept that many people have a hard time understanding, but then everybody understands it because Christians teach it all the time. They say God is everywhere. God is all around us. But then in another breath, you'll hear a Christian say, well, God walked up to Abraham and taught him this. You're like, well, hold up. How did God walk up to Abraham? And they'll say, because God took over somebody's body and started speaking through that person. It's not the same thing. That's not what's happening. When you say God is everywhere and God is all in the universe and all in the air and God is love, you're talking about a particular type of, not really God, but a type of consciousness. And this is what, if you want to talk about God and what God really is, God is the ultimate God is a form of consciousness. And we call this consciousness in most doctrines the all. But this is like this concept of the all and God being everywhere is not really taught in monotheism correctly. And this is because they want to put you up under one deity. Or that's why they're monotheistic. They're really henotheistic. They're singling out a deity and putting you up under them. But if you get past all of the rigmarole and all of that, you're going to find out about this concept of the all. Now, what is the all? The all is essentially love. But love is a set of laws. It's a set of codes that no matter who you are, what being you are up under the control of these laws and these codes. So when you hear me talk about God is not a respecter of persons, when you hear people say God loves everybody, this is the actual consciousness, this group of laws. And laws govern all events. This set of consciousness is the type of, this is really God, or this is like the all, or this is when we say we're all connected and nobody gets away when they do something to somebody else. This is why a God could do something to a mortal or a peasant, like a high up God, like a Adonai, like one of the guys I was talking about, like a Yahweh could come from the Bureau and do something to humans, and if they violate universal law, they're going to pay and they're going to suffer no matter what their title was. So no matter how big and bad they got all these robes and these crystals on their neck and thinking they just big and bad or whatever, but then they violate the little bitty tiny principle in the universe and they upset the all. It upsets the all when you violate a principle in the universe, and what happens is that particular person has to pay now through karma. So, and it's a mechanism that's set up in the universe, and it's a law that was created from the very beginning, and the only way to understand it is to understand the black dot. See, the black dot is from where the circle emerges, or from where the spiral emerges. And if you really want to understand the all, or the concept of the all, the best deity in monotheism to really understand this concept is Allah. Is Allah. And I say that for many different reasons. Now, Allah is a misunderstood deity as well, because for some, when you say Allah, it's going to automatically turn on this religious thing. Oh, God, that's another God. That's the God of the Muslims. And that's not really what Allah means. You have to research it. And I'm not an Arabic scholar, but I spent a little time in Islam, so I can take you into a little bit of what Allah means. And Allah is a compilation of two words, Al or El and Ilah. And the L is used in Hebrew and Arabic because these are two languages that are brothers and sisters, kind of, sort of. They have the same words and things of that nature. In Islam, they say Al, and in Hebrewism, they say El. But it's the same thing. So when you say Allah or El Ilah, El Ilah means the source. This is what it literally means, because the term Ilah, see, if you look up Allah, they'll say it means God. But what you have to remember is that the term Allah is much older than the term God. There was Allah, people were saying Allah before they were saying God. The term Allah goes back to Alat with a T, and the Muslims changed it, and it meant the source, or from where everything emerged, or that feminine principle. So even in the concept or the construct of God, the source or the womb is from where everything comes from, or the all. So in the concept of the all, you have a series of laws, codes, and things like that that come from the source, come directly from the center. So when you understand a circle, this is God, because everything, all life comes from the circle of life, or the circle, or the clock of destiny. And the zodiac is a circle, the vagina is a hole or a circle, the penis or the phallus looks like a circle. Everything in existence, everything that's breathing in creation has to come from that same portal, that same spiral, that same circle. So this is when you get into understanding Allah. And in Allah, if you break down the word, and of course this is getting into more of an acronym and getting into English, if you break it down, you'll see the term all in it, all because Allah represents the concept of the all, because from that source is where laws were originated from. See, it was the source that created universal law that governs everybody. And the source is a principle that is not personified in any human shell, so therefore it encompasses everything. See, we're all created from light, from codes. No matter what being you are, you're created from something. And the source is that zero-time reference that writes the law or the code that governs you. That's what people feel. So the source is kind of like the programmer. And the programmer has to be feminine, has to be creative. So when you read the scriptures in the Quran, and you read about Islam, you read about Allah and how beautiful the chants are, and just how beautiful the Quran reads. The reason why the Quran reads a lot more beautiful than the Bible, and it's so beautiful to read, is because it represents the feminine principle, the Venetian principle, the source. It represents Venus. Venus is the god of beauty. And this is because every so many years Venus moves in a five-pointed star. And in Islam, they use the five-pointed star as a particular star of theirs. They use the crescent and the five-pointed star, but when you look in the universe, there's no such thing as a five-pointed star. There are 6 and 7-pointed stars, but there's no such thing as a five-pointed star, because the concept of the five-pointed star goes into the arm, or the head, arm, leg, leg. Allah, A-L-L-A-H. This is where the 5%ers got it from. So the concept of Allah goes into an acronym of arm, leg, arm, head, which ties into the five-pointed star. Because when you look at a five-pointed star, it looks like a man spreading, or really a man, not a woman, spreading his hands out like he's on a cross and with his legs out. That's what a five-pointed star is. It represents the 5 points of man. And this is why in Islam they have the 5 pillars. See, this is going into decoding the metaphysics of Islam. You'll see how the extraterrestrials put this doctrine together. See, they use these occult principles to write scriptures and books. They put these doctrines together based upon higher principles. So they put the concept of what the Muslims are going to believe in and all of that based upon higher metaphysical occult principles. So the concept of the all and the concept of God being everywhere and God being love goes back to the law. Allah is not a respecter of persons. God is not a respecter of persons. So we are all here equal in this universe, and it's the all that keeps that system of balances in check. It keeps that system of checks and balances in play. So next time you use the term God, think about it. All those different terms that I've given you, these are different words that many people associate with God. And they say, well, it's all the same. It's only one God. We're talking about the same thing. Don't believe that. That's a lie. You might not be talking about the same thing. When somebody says, I'm praying to God that this and that happens, you don't know what God they're really praying to. You don't know what their intentions are. So think about it. Think. I'm just simply making this video for people to just think. That's all I want you to do. I'm going to go ahead and shut this video down. I hope you learned something based upon the construct of God. And until my next video, I'll leave you all in peace, love, and light.